Hello, guys. Welcome back to another Call Hub webinar. Thank you for joining us as we wait for a couple of minutes for like everybody to join in, but the rest of you do welcome. So just for those of us who are new, let me give a little share about what Call Hub is and what Call Hub does. My name is Vinayak. I work for Call Hub, and so at Call Hub, we like to see ourselves as like change makers, helping those who wish to bring real change in the world get the technology that they need to make a difference in today's like digital world. So we have things like phone banking, we have text messaging, we have peer-to-peer management, and a lot more, all geared to help get the message out to those who need to hear it. So as you can tell, probably that campaigning is our main bread and butter. We work a lot with people who do campaigning, and we help them reach out to whoever it might be. Sometimes it's voters, sometimes it's just for a referendum, sometimes it's to change a law, it's to reach out to like the local senator, the congressperson, whoever that may be. So whoever it is, so we do with campaigning a lot, and that's what we do here at Call Hub, and that's the kind of services that we provide. Today, in this webinar, for example, speaking of campaigns, we're here to talk about like small campaigns and big mistakes. So the idea for this campaign, which we got, was that like we all have been part of campaigns. Some of us run campaigns, some of us are staffers, or like people like Call Up, we are on the technology side of campaigns. And we kind of overlook things that ultimately cost us heavily. And it's only in hindsight, we're like, oh yeah, we should have done this, we should have done that. They don't tend to be like really big mistakes or like, massive obvious things. They tend to be small things. And so we want to talk about that. Now, we don't realize the importance of these things because we don't have experience or we just didn't know that was the case. And so that is why I'm very happy to welcome our speaker today, Mr. Matthew Arnold, who has worked on every kind of political campaign imaginable, actually. So Matthew has created programs that have won at every level, from, let's say, like grocery referendums in towns with like 400 voters to like European national elections, from city council advocacies to national independent expenditures. He's worked with big campaigns. He is a pretty, out there consultant, and he's a famous consultant as such. So he has handled lots of campaigns, and he can tell us, what went wrong, what didn't go correctly. To speak about himself, he is particularly skilled at crafting media programs that are meant for voter mobilization. So, and he is, as probably you can tell from the background of his wall, he is deeply progressive and works with the progressive movement a lot. That is reflected in everything that he does, his strategies, his impact, the kind of accountability he brings to campaigns. So that's who he is. Welcome, Arnold.
Y'all, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you taking the time. As Vinayak said, Matt Arnold, most folks call me Mudcat. You should too. I am here in Nashville, Tennessee with a bunch of y'all. I see all the Calvert Street group attendees logged in. That 400 vote grocery referendum was a Calvert Street special. Still talk about that all the time. I want to talk today about campaigns that are small. You may be a first-time manager. You may be, a first-time senior staffer, field director, operative, trying to figure out how campaigns work. And we're going to talk about the ultimate goal of a campaign, which is to run a great campaign. And I'm going to pull up a deck here. You're going to watch me fumble for a second as we navigate the technology. Vinayak, are we doing this correctly? Do we see the screen in full size? All right, it looks like it to me. All right, so we started Corsair campaigns in 2023, really because I had a day where I was, working at another media firm, and we were building program, testing 15-second ads, various concepts on content, different colors, different fonts. And it was ultimately very tedious and, often successful. Good analytics are important. But the sort of thinking about small things on campaigns and kind of had my fill of it on that day. And I started thinking about the things that I really love about campaigns. why did I make the decision at 26 years old that this is what I was going to do for the rest of my life? And the things that I remembered, the things that motivated me then, the things that I'm still attached to now, were really the adventures of campaigns, going out and fighting the good fight, taking causes that you care about and making new friends, and going out and knocking on doors and making phone calls and having conversations with people that are intended to change behavior, change minds, win hearts. And I was really lucky when I was, early in my career that I got a couple of those campaigns that were just big, sweeping, romantic campaigns. You fight, you win, you lose, you go all about it. And that was really the impetus of the company was to find a place where we could do that work, the exciting stuff, the sweeping stuff, for people who really needed it, in places that are hard to win, in places where you may not have talked to a voter may not have talked to a Democrat in 20 years. So we really banked the company on this idea that we could build great campaigns. And what do we mean by that? We mean great campaigns connect people to something bigger than themselves. It is the first rule of organizing, right? We are offering people an opportunity to be part of something bigger than themselves. They have the opportunity to expand what they know, who they are. It is a place where you can grow. It is a place where all of the things that I just talked about, the big fight, the scramble, the making the plan, the executing the plan, recovering when your plan encounters reality. It's a place where you get to have that adventure. People get to be part of something bigger than themselves when they engage in the political process. Great campaigns sow seeds for the future. You are doing things like entering data. You are conducting tests. You are taking all the data that you get from the call hub, putting all those survey responses, all that donor data, putting that in databases. You are sharing that with other people. You are building up your local county party capacity. You are building up your local activist base. You're teaching people how to have a press conference. You're teaching people how to cut a packet. Great campaigns are building something that is going to last beyond election day. And great campaigns engage the culture. We have seen it, so many times now that people who are disengaged from the process, people who have not been registered, people who have not been frequent voters, when we create art that looks like those communities, we turn out people. When we run candidates that are like a community, when people see themselves in the look and the aesthetic and the values of a candidate and of their campaign, we're engaging the culture. Also, when we say engage the culture, tying campaigns and communities to history, engaging how we got here, engaging where we're going. Offering people a vision for the future that is still connected to what has happened in the past. The world did not spring fully formed as it is today. There is a reason that the decisions that were made in the past were made. In places where those were good decisions, we should recognize and celebrate forethought. In places where those were bad decisions, or even good decisions with bad motivations, we should recognize that and accept that we have to move forward from where we are today. that we are starting today. We have both a past and a future, and we should be prepared for it. Campaigns that manage to do that, that manage to say, this is where we are, this is how we got here, this is where we're going, are the campaigns that people remember because you are giving people a sense of vision, hope, optimism. Now, how does that have anything to do? All that big talk. How does that have anything to do with what we are here to discuss today, the do's and don'ts of a campaign? Especially with small campaigns, you have to understand that everything you do has to be done well. There is a consequence to every action. One of our core values as a company is that the laws of physics apply in all situations. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Objects stay at rest until they are acted on by an outside observer. We believe that the laws of physics apply. And so the big thing, the thing that you want, the moment in which your campaign catches fire, you connect to your community, you catch history, the audience finds the campaign, and the campaign starts to move under its own power. That is the thing that we are looking for all day, every day. A campaign has been successful when the campaign starts having to run to catch up with its own activist base, with its own donor base, with its own messaging. When the campaign gets its own legs, when it takes off and starts to move under its own power, you have succeeded, win, lose, or draw. That only happens. You only get to that moment of the great campaign by doing the small things well. Competency begets confidence, and confidence wins campaigns. When campaigns are able to make decisions knowing that their staff are reliable, that their donors are going to support them, that their ads work, that the mail has hit. When campaigns are able to move forward with confidence, they make bolder, more uninhibited decisions. Campaigns can start to operate from a place that is inviting people to join them in a way that works, that is successful. And that confidence only comes when we've done the small thing well. You responded to an email quickly. If a candidate doesn't hear back from you for 3 or 4 hours, they're going to have concerns. What are you doing? How are you spending your time? If a donor doesn't get a follow-up link after they get their phone call, those folks are going to have questions about how quickly things can move. Are you able to be fast enough? Are you able to be thorough? Are you able to be nimble? So doing the small things well in the beginning is a big deal. So we want to talk today about what are some of the values of the do's and the don'ts, and how to make those decisions in ways that let you do the small things well and lead to the big things. The value of a do. I am a big believer in automatic decision making. If every time we dither, every time we say, "Oh, let's have a meeting, let's have a round table," we want to, sit, think, mull things over. Let's do another piece of analysis. Let's make another spreadsheet. We are inviting opportunities for analysis paralysis. Every good organization has a set of values around decision making that make it easy to say yes and no. Here are some of the things that inform what we advise our clients about the values of a do. Things that we say yes to. They have an outcome. Y'all, the number of times in which we have conversations in which somebody says, we should do this thing. We should go to this place. We should have this event. We should spend this money. We should run this program. I talked to this vendor who said, uh, and we say, so what's it going to do? What do we get out of it? Uh, the answer is so frequently, I don't know. We get to do the thing. Um, we want all the decisions we make. We want all of our strategic capacity, our resources, our time, money, and people devoted to things that have an outcome. We want that outcome to advance a strategic goal. And by that, I mean campaigns run, if it is an electoral campaign, you need a vote. If it is an advocacy campaign, you will need to sway either a stakeholder or you need to sway public opinion. Everything that you do, the decisions you make should advance your strategic goals in an obvious way. All right, know what you're getting out of it. Uh, Decisions we make should fit within the identity, culture, and competence of a campaign. Uh, we've got lots of clients, and y'all, we do lots of small elections. We have clients with national presence. We have, a couple of folks for whom we do big stuff in lots of states, get to play in, some of the sexiest stuff that happens in the country. And then we have the other 37 clients. And those folks are state legislators, county CEOs, county tax commissioners, county commissioners, profoundly unsexy stuff, but is really the backbone of good government, at least in the U.S. And then I see Canadian, German, other international entities in the roster here. This is a decidedly U.S. framework. I've done some of the European EU stuff, and I'm happy to, if you guys want to send an email or text or something about specific questions, I'm happy to address those. So, forgive me if this is not all applicable in all time zones. But we have some small campaigns, and each campaign ultimately comes up with something that they're really good at. They are able to make good emails and get those out on time. They're able to run competent text campaigns. Their canvases go out. They have above average knock rates. They have above average contact rates. They are converting voters when they talk to them on doors. They run great ads. Like the scripts that come out of our process and those campaigns end up just being extraordinarily compelling. So when you do stuff, when you have the opportunity to make a decision, choose stuff that fits within the identity, the culture, and the competence of your campaign. Make sure that it looks like you, that it feels like your candidate, that it feels like your campaign and your community, and it's something that you're going to be able to do well. And then short-term loss, cost, and long-term gain. Man, this is your number one. If something is going to cost you money until the end of your election day, until the end of your campaign, it really needs to be valuable. It needs to be something that the effort is ultimately going to hinge on. Most of your decisions should be things that we pay for once and use throughout the rest of the campaign. And the opposite side of this, the characteristics of don't. The things that you should not do, your automatic no's, your bad decisions, the things that identify a part of your decision-making tree that, you should stop. Anytime somebody says they want to make a splash, and I'm being uniquely hard on this, because it's literally happened this weekend. There's a person who is a new friend who's working very hard to be helpful, who I am generally inclined to trust their counsel, sent me this pitch about we should do this thing to make a splash. And it reminded me that, down that road lies ruin, because we don't have a plan for what happens after the splash. The water is going to be out of the pool. The water is not going to be in a bucket. We have not profited anything from a splash. If there is no follow-up plan, if you get a lot of attention, but you don't have an ability to capture that and turn it into an email address, into a voter, a volunteer, or a donor, then you have spent resources that have no return. So attention in and of itself is not a goal. So if somebody tells you that they're there to make a splash, I would not consider those folks strategically inclined. Hinges on parlay. One of the things that's made my life a little easier, if not necessarily better, the advancement of sports betting. More people understand what a parlay is. When we have a set of dependent conditions, when there is a set of consequences that hinge on one thing following another, ergo prop post proctor, huh? We call that a parlay. Chasing dependent conditions get you in a lot of trouble in campaigns. We're going to have this meeting to set up the next meeting. Generally means that the likelihood of either thing going well diminishes with every dependent condition. The probability of an outcome that is desirable it goes down. So when we have opportunities to do things, if we do this, then we'll open up that. Unless the first thing is profitable unto itself, you should stay away from that. You should stay away from things that advance an agenda. If there's a guy in your life who thinks it's really important that you buy billboards, that billboards are the answer, and everything that they say comes back to buying billboards, you should carefully consider whether or not this effort to get you to buy billboards is an effort to help the campaign, or whether or not it is an effort to advance their agenda. There are people, good, well-intentioned, thoughtful people, who will tell you that the way to win a race in our county is, right, we hit 30% in the northern parts of the district. We run a turnout program in multiple languages in the southern part of the district, and in the middle of the district, we run a heavy knock and call program. That's a plan, right? Works. It is a strategy that is very easily executed and could very easily be replicated. But in your role as a manager, as a senior staffer, as a consultant, I would expect you to look seriously at whether or not that is how your campaign is going to win versus being the program that other people know how to execute, know how to run, and frequently know how to profit from, right? If anybody's got a profit motive in your campaign, regard those people with suspicion. There's a necessary additional burden of proof. And I say that as the guy who's selling Facebook ads, text messages. You should be suspicious of us too. Anything that has an ongoing expense that exceeds the revenue generated. And I am looking specifically at people want to sell you project management software, want to put you on services, want to sign you up for all sorts of services, a software package, programs. If it's not making you money, there's a product that'll do it for free. Google Docs are infinitely adaptable. And you should be very careful. Just automatic no for anything that serves anything other than the community you are looking to represent or the campaign itself. We see all the time people who want to run campaigns because they get to be famous on somebody else's money. You get to take in contributions and turn that into a social following, use it to promote a book, use it to build a platform that you're going to use to, sell your line of custom T-shirts or tennis shoes. Uh, if the effort is the if the thing that is being proposed to you does not directly benefit the community or the campaign, it's probably a bad idea. Um, a great example of this, we were doing a city council race in Atlanta, and the incumbent that we were running against was known for passing out Thanksgiving turkeys. And, during the runoff period after the general election, Thanksgiving would come up, and it was a big part of the community to go see this incumbent and participate in her rallies and, go get your free turkey. The I got really into the idea that if they were going to do turkeys, we have to do hams. And that is something that serves the community, right? It serves the campaign. There was a sort of implicit understanding in the situation that this incumbent gave away free turkeys. They were investing in the community. They were helping people. Y'all, there is nothing that advances community cohesion, advances the interest of a campaign, helps build good politics than free food. So an example of being able to do something that sounds kind of silly, but actually is in service of the campaign. They were doing turkeys, we did hams. And, that dude won. So if you're going to talk about investing resources, do it in a way that serves the community, serves the campaign. If there is an obvious campaign investment that is going to some external profit, be suspicious of it. And that leads us to an unfortunate truth of campaigns. There are a lot more don'ts than do's. Lots of people are going to call you and they're going to tell you that you need to buy their thing. You're going to say no 97% of the time. There are no magic bullets. Their campaigns are hard. It's a long series of people asking for stuff. It's a lot of people doing work for free. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of heartbreak. You are asking people to do things that are impossibly hard that they may never do again. And it is our job as consultants, operators, managers, and staff to support those folks. That frequently means using the free tool and being committed to lowest cost, highest difficulty options because campaigns are hard. Some of the areas where mistakes are made. I'm a media consultant. I make ads. I've made lots of stuff. Made lots of flyers and stickers and buttons. Run a lot of paid canvas programs, organizing programs. But at where I am at in my life today, where we're at in our business and our career, we're making ads. We're making ads for TV. We're making ads for social media. We're making ads for the text messages that we send out on Call Hub, thanks to our corporate sponsors. And you can talk all day about branding and narrative in some of the campaigns, where some of the mistakes that campaigns make in setting themselves up. But ultimately, in matters of taste, the client is always correct. And I'm not going to tell you that there's a one-size-fits-all model for talking about your community. To be good at the creative stuff, you really got to be invested in your community. You really got to understand your candidate biographies, their motivations. You've got to understand the issue. You've got to understand the turf. The days in which a consultant can sit in Nashville and say, well, voters in New Hampshire know, and voters in California believe, and all voters think this thing. And if we run a campaign that's security first and finances second, then that's going to win the biggest swath of the most people. Those days are long gone. Media is incredibly fragmented. Geographic specialties are becoming a real thing in the consulting market again. So, what I'm going to talk to you about today, in an effort to actually be, useful and make good use of the time that you've committed to spend with us today, I want to hit you with three things: staffing, management, and social media. Staffing. Don't hire people before you can pay them. If you don't have 5 pay periods, sorry, I think we should be back. Um, if you don't have 5 pay periods worth of salary on hand, don't hire this person. We see it all the time where campaigns get attached to the idea that we've got to have a big staff, we've got to have all of these people, and they don't have the money in the bank to cover any of them. So they end up raising to pay salaries instead of raising to move ahead. The Let me make sure in the chat here that we're still doing this correctly. Great. The staffing, don't pay people before you have their salaries in the bank. Don't do illegal stuff, y'all. This is specifically for some of the Nashville folks in the chat. There was a campaign several years ago that was just hung up on the idea that we could take people who are on the payroll of businesses and turn those people into campaign employees. That's illegal. We've seen it with government staff, in which elected officials take their publicly funded staff and turn those folks into full-time campaign staff. All of that's illegal, right? And if you hire people, you have to pay them. You have to pay them out of the campaign account. Don't do illegal stuff. Just don't. Things that are going to make your staff and life easier. Have the cash on hand. Have written job descriptions that match the expectations. Have a document that can say, I am hiring you to do X, so that you can say, I hired you to do X. X has been done well or poorly. Interview multiple candidates. I swear I've got a candidate who runs just so they can raise money to pay a particular friend. You cannot have a campaign manager who does not have campaign manager skills. So I want you in every campaign to interview multiple people for every role. Let several people tell you how they imagine your campaign, how they imagine how they can help you. And don't be afraid to use contractors. Lean on contract graphic designers. You don't have to pay somebody to manage your social media content. You can lean on a graphic designer and have somebody a volunteer post. You can use, paid canvassers. Those are folks who can be contractors. You can have, if you've got a consulting firm like us, work those people. You should not be paying people, especially if you're paying them a retainer, to show up for an hour conference call every week and check in with you with 3 text messages or a 20-minute call once a week. You're paying them to produce work. For us as an agency, that means graphics. It means videos. It means social media posts. Use the firms that are showing up to catch your general election budget. Use them to position yourself to get to a successful general election. Push your vendors. Don't be afraid to use contractors. Long-term employment agreements should be the most minimal thing you do. And then management. How do we actually live through the day and move forward goal to goal? Don't expect stuff to teleport. Over here, we have a term We call it teleportation. That means we're going to break the laws of physics. That we're going to take something that should not exist and make it exist. We're going to make something faster than it should be able to be made. Teleportation, we do it. It's extremely rare. And at this point, we are billing clients extra who require teleportation. If you expect us to break the laws of physics, that's going to catch a fee. Closely related, don't do things day of. If you know that on Tuesday, you've got to have an ad that goes to print in a local newspaper. Don't start that on Tuesday thinking you're going to beat it by 5 o'clock. People are going to have edits. People are going to have opinions. The first draft is never the best draft. So, make a plan. If something's going to be due on Tuesday, make sure that we see a first draft on Thursday. We have Friday to comment. There's a day off in which we, just think about it and don't email back and forth. Make a plan so that you can do things not the day of. Day of is when we make mistakes. Don't drift crisis to crisis. If the whole point of management, the whole point of having plans is to be proactive. If you are going from crisis to crisis, from problem to problem, you are being reactive. You are not driving your agenda. To succeed in a campaign, you have to drive the day and win the day more often than your opponents. So if you are waiting for something to happen so you can implement a solution, you are behind the 8 ball. You should be waking up every day knowing what you're going to do, and the responses to whatever problems crop up during the day are other people's problem until you have accomplished what you intend to accomplish. And then don't make the enemy the perfect of the good. Or, excuse me, don't make the perfect the enemy of the good. Such a platitude, you can change the words and people still know what you're trying to say. Don't make the perfect the enemy of the good. B plus work is faster and cheaper and just as effective most of the time. We always strive to be creative. We want perfect implementation. We want to beat industry averages in all of our creative work. The kerning in the font, whether or not we abbreviate specific terms, those are the sorts of decisions that are just going to slow you down. They're going to stop you from talking to voters. They're going to stop you from making stuff that's going to move the needle on your campaign. So be willing to say yes to things that, may not be completely hammered out. Because I promise you, every time you fix a small thing, another thing's going to pop up. Be ready to say yes to B plus work. Things you should do as campaign manager. Every goal has a plan. If we need to get to our win number, you make a plan. We're getting X votes out of X precincts from X demographics. We're getting X number of votes on early vote. We're getting X number of votes early in person. We're getting X number of votes on election day. Have a plan. Work backwards from that plan. This goes for your communications plan. It goes for your finance plan. Everything that you do should have a plan with steps. And give every plan a budget. If it is not funded, you do not intend to do it. I've got this idea for this great text message plan. We're going to spend the late money on it. That is not a plan. That is a hope. It's a wish. It's a dream. It's a lot of things. It's not a plan. Everything that has a budget gets accomplished. Everything that does not have a budget does not get accomplished. And y'all be addicted to deadlines. You know why you get so many emails and text messages? Hey, we're $27 short of this week's fundraising goal. Our next deadline is Tuesday night. Y'all, there are quarterly deadlines. Those are the only reporting periods. Every other deadline, every monthly, weekly, daily fundraising goal is fictitious. But you know why we engage in those strategies? We do it because they work. When you give people a deadline, and especially when you give them a deadline, a budget, and a plan, the thing gets done. So have a deadline for everything you do. And I'm going to show you. This is all us. Um, this is a an ad campaign for Representative Rua Roman in Georgia, who we love dearly. We did Rua's 2020 primary. We were hired just I think maybe 2 weeks before the primary. Threw together a digital program. She got very competent stuff. The ad that you see here is on the left is that 2022 ad. The original version of this has some motion. I just couldn't find that file. Versus what we did for her in the Georgia primary, May 21st. We've now been in that relationship for 2 years. We have a great sense of her aesthetic. We have a great sense of what she wants to accomplish, what voters respond to about her. The image on the left, done, very quickly. We applied best practices for someone who we didn't know very well, and it was actually like a whole scramble over when we launch her because we couldn't figure out how to give an invoice. The image on the right, we had that ad concept and this particular piece of creative together for a month before it went up, and we had been part of her campaigns since the first successful primary. And so, we were able to develop something that is much more interesting, much more effective. And that ad specifically, it's a display set. I'm going to do a whole marketing email about this, but we started to think about display advertising as, kind of throwaway digital yard signs, displays a relatively minor part of the budget. This one actually did 4x usual industry performance. And then, I said that you should know your turf before you start talking about narrative, etc. But I want to talk about social media because it's kind of the first thing candidates and campaigns want to jump into. And it's easy to make mistakes early that end up impacting your campaign. One, don't give your enemies opportunities. Just until you know what you want to say and you have practiced saying it and you know that you are saying it well, until you have become competent about your messaging, don't get out over your skis. You don't have to be bold in the first thing. Don't try to punch above your weight. Some people who have been clients in the past and some people who would like to be clients in the future think that they're supposed to have incredible cultural impact from their position as a state representative, a member of the county commission, etc. Weighing in on matters of national and international import when you are not impacted by, could impact in your role, or an expert in these issues, invites a whole set of questions about whether or not you are committed to your community. Are you trying to run for the people in your neighborhood, or are you trying to be famous? And voters are very sensitive to everything right now that looks inauthentic, that it's not committed to them. So, don't try to punch above your weight. Stay in your role. If you are running in a district that has 50,000 voters, you should not have a goal or an ambition of a social media following beyond 30 to 50,000 voters, right? The people who you're going to represent, the people who are stakeholders in your community, and the people who are stakeholders in the political scene, in your community, and in your state. That's who you should be aiming for. There are people who could disagree about this in good faith, who would make a strong argument. Oh, if I've got a national profile, I can be a better fundraiser. I can help. I can be. That's where we get into that question of, are we doing this for the campaign? Are we doing this for the community? Or are we doing it for something else? If we're doing this to set up our run for Congress, that's something people are going to know about. And then don't do harm. You've got a big platform. People trust you. Uh, be a good steward of their time and attention. Um, your social media dues, have a calendar, right? In the same way that we say in management, have a plan for everything, have a plan for your social media. Don't let it go a week without posting. Don't post random stuff because you haven't done it in a while or you think you've got a good idea. Have a plan, work the plan, use the team to vet the content so that you know that you are doing smart stuff. Um, Somebody other than the principal has to be in charge of posting. Candidates who run their own social media pages get in trouble. Um, as I said before, be authentic. Do the things that are in your community. Go to the Greek festival, go to the Italian festival. Every neighborhood's got festivals for every ethnicity and community. Go to those. Post videos from those. Post videos about whatever your local emergency services say. Post videos about the things that are relevant to your community and your district. And you can be creative. It's okay to do the TikTok dances. It's okay to do uh, you know, things that push your comfort zone. If your Earth Day graphic doesn't stick to your branding guide, it's not going to be a deal breaker for your campaign. You should have a branding guide. You should be consistent in the things that you do. Uh, but variation in the pursuit of authenticity and the pursuit of impact is not going to hurt you. And then match the moment. If something's sad, post about it sad. When somebody's hurt, post about the person. Posting about process in a time when people hurt is a great way to lose credibility and lose followers. Uh, an example of real harm. There's this thing going on, and I'm mad about this, so I'm gonna talk to y'all about it. Uh, you may have seen Instagram and the meta properties are changing the way the algorithms work and the way in which they promote and recommend political content. They are doing this. What they told me as somebody who buys a bunch of money or spends a bunch of money on their platforms is that they are looking to minimize the opportunities for foreign governments to interfere, for bad faith actors to create content that finds an audience and spreads organically with malintent. Um, you know, they're looking to, this is a way in which they are helping minimize the damage that can be done by both non-state actors and bad faith actors in the run-up to the 2024 election. Um, if you are running your social media page in such a way that you've been flagged as promoting the sort of content that is going to get you degraded in the algorithm, uh, governed down, whatever the words were, you're doing it wrong. You are attempting to grow an inauthentic audience. You are posting content that is not resonating to a community that is understood and well defined. Because they are trying not to do this to legitimate campaigns, people represented by obvious agencies, verified vendors, etc. So I saw on a page that I manage, former clients, um, this piece of content, we're getting degraded. If you want to continue to see our stuff, you have to adjust your settings. What they are telling people to do, they are telling people in their community that care about them that they should opt into Russian spam, the Chinese meme factories, and all on the conservative end, all of the folks who are trying to sow division and distrust in the American electoral system and the American system of government. As an elected official, this is harmful and you shouldn't do it. If you did it, go and take it down. Here's a way that you can do it for good. And again, we use Roman because Rue is awesome and starts at this from all of the best places, so she gets good stuff. You see, she is encouraging people to vote. Right? Here's a government link. Here's a relevant hashtag. Here's a picture of people having a good time posting their Georgia voter stickers. Here she is on the left, encouraging people to go out and canvass and sharing the content of a fellow elected Democrat that is in her district. Um, those are ways that you can do this and do it well. That brings us to the end of our content right at the 10-minute mark, so that we can turn and have some questions. Thank y'all. I appreciate it. I know this was a ton of stuff. I'm Mudcat Arnold. This is Corsair Campaigns. You can see my contact information there. And I'm going to take this screen down and swap back to the chat.
Well, that was hello. Yeah, that was quite informative. I was really surprised with the ham. This thing, I was curious. Did that work then? Well, how did that turn out? After all, the turkey versus ham.
Oh, it totally worked. It's the whole, like, do you understand what an elected official is supposed to do in this community? Do you understand how to be a provider? Do we know that we're going to be able to depend on you? He did as many hams as she had done turkeys, and it solved a key question to the electorate.
I feel there should be like some sort of study or a small like document, something about the fact that you guys went down that path. It's like pretty cool. But in either case, I have a bunch of questions and some we've collected as well. Start something that I'm personally curious about. You began by like talking about the 400 campaign that you're done, and you're like really happy about it. Now, usually, for example, like earlier speakers, no shade to them, but earlier speakers, when we spoke, like they would say, like, oh, I worked with Obama, I worked with Bernie. You seem really happy about this very small campaign. I was curious why it held such a special place, like in your feelings.
Because it was fun and ridiculous. And a bunch of the folks from the agency that I was working at when we did that are on the call. So I don't know any of y'all, but hey, I have done the big stuff. SEIU is a client. We did their IE for Governor Beshear. We do their stuff in Dallas, Houston mayor's races last year. We do LCV stuff. We did all their advocacy for the Farm Bill. I ran one of the first super PACs. We have a whole set of federal knowledge and experience, and the company was born out of being tired of testing 15-second ads. That's not something you do on a small town mayor's race. The things that I love about campaigns are, as I said, it's the romance of it. It's engaging with the community. It's being connected to people. It's inviting people to be part of something that can change their lives, to giving, people get new skill sets, and, they see something that they never thought was possible before. And sure, that happens on big races. But it happens, it is more accessible on the small ones. And, I take a lot of pride in the fact that we do weird stuff. We can do things that are, in different languages. We're running ads in Dine, which is a Navajo language, on reservations in New Mexico. We've done native work in Montana. We do weird stuff. And that 400 vote referendum was weird. There was no voter file. There was no list of registered voters. The election was only possible because they had changed the law. I think the law became applicable in May, and we had the election in December. It was like the shortest period of time in which something like that could happen. And it was everything you want, right? We staged the campaign out of a coffee house, and we got to be close to the folks who own the coffee shop. The mayor knew who we are, whole thing. And we also, I think we ended up with like 78% of the vote. Right. There were 400 people. We sent 5 pieces of mail, not, I think 2,000 doors. Right. We canvassed the entire town 7 times. People thought I lived there by the end of that election. That sort of work is a blast. right? Like it's fun. It's easy to make people happy. Right. I think they got a cop car out of the deal. Um, so
Oh, that's
that was, yeah. There's a special place in my heart. I am happier doing the small and the weird uh, than the big stuff. The big stuff feels good, right? Like you get big budgets. You get to make stuff like we did one for LCB where we went to Coffee County, Georgia, and shot a black farmer co-op. And made ads that won awards and played all over the country. And Raphael Warnock sends an email, "Love your ads." Right? Like you're not going to get any cooler than that. And that's cool, but the small stuff is a different kind of cool. It's a different kind of satisfaction in the work.
hmm. I mean, okay. Speaking of that, because I like the fact that okay, this campaign was a success, and like you said, people thought you lived there. So there's a lot of commitment to that campaign, and you have also mentioned about the fact that how sometimes like the way that you see that a campaign works is when a campaign starts moving on its own power and things like that. Just to take the opposite of it, because see, when we work for campaigns, we tend to be volunteers and we tend to be believe in this. But do you think that there's some time where somebody has to make a decision and say, hey, you know what, this is not worth it. Cut your losses and go. Is that a good thing, or should you always be like, no, we'll believe it till like the last vote is counted?
I uh,
Realistically,
I
I mean,
used to
we have heard this thing, but realistically,
I used to work at a firm where the tagline in the marketing materials was "We'll be with you till the last vote's counted." Um, the So I've got an answer about that. I've done it more this year in an entrepreneurial space than I have any other time. Relationships are just not working out. Campaigns are not going to be, particularly fruitful. Not that they're not going to win. It's just they're not going to be, profitable to us. And we separate ourselves. But, you know, by and large, when we sign up, we take the ride. Like we buy the ticket and take the ride.
I mean, okay, so profit that you mentioned is interesting because, okay, so when we work with campaigns, often like when time for billing and all comes, for example, the idea is the campaigns do believe that they will raise funds as it goes on. Like, the candidate's going to become more popular, we're going to make more money, and so on and so forth. We don't have an opinion necessarily about how that works, but from your experience, is that the way to go, or should you have like the entire budget of the campaign first and then let's see you race?
Y'all know that Jimmy Buffett song, a pirate looks at 40. He says, "I've made enough money to buy Miami, but I pissed it away so fast." That's me. Um, and you should not listen to anything that I say about personal finance or business finance. It is. We talked a little bit about competency, and you should lean into the things that you do well. I do not lean into or promote any sort of expertise about being an A+ finance man. I'm a great campaign manager. Um, I can do what we've done here, make good decisions about how to spend a zero. But in businesses in your personal life, you should probably not spend a zero. Um, the My wife has deep concerns. The um, So with that, um, what I have found, uh, I've been a partner in an agency. I've had every job title you can have in politics. I've done this shit way too long. The um, What I've discovered is that I work best, and the company that I've built works best when the incentives of the client are in line with the company. Um, so we do something that I think it is uncommon in the industry. When we apply to be vendors to the DCCC, DLCC, all the big committees, they all say you have to do pass-through production, meaning that the agency cannot profit from the making of the ad. And, most people bill staff time into that. One, we don't. We take a very small creative fee. Two, We give that same deal to our local election clients. The same deal that was required by the big national committees, we give to state reps in New Mexico. And the um, we do that so if we get you the ad cheap, right? If we can get you an $8,000 30, uh, which is several $1,000s than a closest competitor in
Yeah,
our
yeah.
case. The if we can get you an $8,000 30, you can go raise money, and your buy will be bigger. We take a bigger percentage of the buy than an industry standard in exchange for having provided you the asset early and at cost. So um, we believe that our interests are aligned when we help you do better. So the um, we also don't do retainers by and large. We have it's a very specific set of clients for whom we do lots of stuff and are very involved on a day-to-day basis that we do retainers. As we grow a affairs practice and a corporate advertising practice, that retainer policy is changing. But we really work to make the prices suit the needs of the client. We say the most valuable you'll ever be to us as a company is the day after you win. When somebody
Ah,
texts you and say, "Hey, man, congratulations! I'm thinking about running. How'd you do it?" If your answer is, "We called Corsair," that is the best possible outcome for us. So, yeah, we want our clients to do well, to win, to feel like the service that they've gotten, the assets they've gotten, are of sufficient value that corresponds to the price.
okay. One last question, simply because I was sort of amused by that idea. A lot of campaigns, and especially small campaigns, are friend based. Like, I want to stand for election, or I want to call out my friend and be like, you guys, meet me outside the townhouse. We're going to hold a rally. You were mentioning the fact that, hey, you know what? Look at professionals, and some candidate was apparently running just to pay his friends, good friend. So my curious, like, is it better to like aim for the professionals, or what is it? Because we will have friends who want to work with us as such.
It's if you hang out with politicians long enough, you'll end up running for stuff. The number of candidates who run who file because they are in political circles, right? They've been going to Young Democrats meetings. Everybody that they know is a state rep or a county commissioner, city council member. That's a non-trivial part of our candidate recruitment. So yeah, do we have some social relationship with lots of these folks? Yes, but we also have a contract. Our contracts spell out pretty specifically this is what we're going to provide you. I encourage everybody who's going to hire staff to have job descriptions that spell this stuff out. The difference between professional and not professional is paperwork. If there's an enforceable contract, you can make sure your obligations are met.
Hmm, fine, fair enough. We're just about running out of time, so let's wrap this up. But thank you, Matthew. That was like our Mudcat. That was like exceptional, and it's like a lot of information. So thank you all for attending, and I hope it was an informative for you as well. So we'll
All right.
catch you in some time. Okay, bye bye.